Welcome to this explainer. Almost everyone has this version of their life that they know they are entirely capable of living, and yet they aren't. We've all felt it, right? That lingering gap between who you currently are and who you just know you could be. It's a completely universal human experience, and psychology actually has a name for this gap. But be warned, the forces keeping you stuck there are incredibly powerful.
Think about it. Why do we so often choose a known bad job over an unknown good one? Logically, it makes absolutely zero sense. Yet millions of people do exactly this every single day. We cling to what is familiar, even when it's actively harmful to us. And this is the psychological trap we're dissecting today.
Section 1. Inside the comfort zone. Safe, but static.
Okay, let's dive into this. It's fascinating because studies consistently show that over the long term, we humans regret inaction far more than action. We always regret the things we didn't do. Yet we constantly trap ourselves in the comfort zone. It's this psychological state where you're operating completely on autopilot. Your anxiety is wonderfully low, but crucially, your growth is absolute zero. It feels incredibly safe, like a warm blanket on a cold morning. But make no mistake, it is completely 100% static.
Now compare that stagnant state to the stretch zone, which is all about productive discomfort. Research clearly shows that peak performance, it doesn't happen when you're totally relaxed. It actually happens just outside your comfort zone, in that optimal anxiety zone where you are genuinely stretching your capabilities.
Section 2. Why we stay stuck. The biological mechanics.
So if the stretch zone is where the magic happens, why on earth do we stay stuck? Well, if you've been beating yourself up for not taking action, I want to validate your experience right now. You are fighting against intense biological mechanics that are literally designed to keep you frozen in place. Take loss aversion, for example. It's a foundational concept from psychologists Kahneman and Tversky. Basically, your brain feels the pain of a loss roughly twice as intensely as the pleasure of an equivalent gain. So even when the potential upside of taking a risk is logically huge, your brain is just screaming at you to avoid the potential loss.
And honestly, it gets even deeper. Fear of failure isn't just about losing some money or wasting time. It equals an identity threat. Failing feels deeply personal, right? It threatens your whole self-image. Think of the real-world example of an entrepreneur who never actually launches their business because the product just isn't perfect yet. They aren't just protecting a product. They are protecting their identity as a smart, capable person from the harsh judgment of the real world. Staying comfortable protects that identity from ever being challenged.
We also suffer from two massive cognitive errors here. First up is the planning fallacy. This is where we completely trick ourselves into overestimating future pain. We convince ourselves that doing the scary thing is going to be absolutely terrible, when in practice, it rarely is. On the flip side, we have normalcy bias. This is our tendency to underestimate the impact of disruptive change. Basically, we pretend a bad situation is perfectly normal, just to avoid the effort of leaving it. We tell ourselves, it's not that bad, when it really, really is.
Then you've got external pressures, social proof, and conformity. The people around you kind of define what feels normal. If everyone in your peer group is playing it safe and staying in their comfort zones, it becomes psychologically costly for you to deviate from that group. We are highly social creatures. Standing out feels genuinely dangerous to our brains. Okay, and if you thought we were just talking about standard, everyday procrastination, wait until you hear this. Terror management theory. This is absolutely fascinating. According to this theory, humans subconsciously suppress thoughts of our own mortality through cultural worldviews and self-esteem. Believe it or not, taking a major risk threatens that self-esteem, which means stepping out of your comfort zone rubs up against some of our deepest, most existential human fears. You aren't just lazy, you are psychologically insulating yourself. Section 3. The sweet spot of stress. How to leverage your biology. But enough about why we're trapped, right? Let's talk about how to use these biological quirks to our advantage. And this brilliantly illustrates what psychologists call the Yerkes-Dodson curve. In the comfort zone, stress is low, but so is performance. In the panic zone, stress is high and performance is completely impaired. The sweet spot is right there in the middle, the stretch zone. Moderate challenge yields peak performance. It's an inverted U-shape. You actually need a little bit of stress to be your absolute best self.
To actively enter that stretch zone, we need what researcher Carol Dweck famously coined a growth mindset. People who adopt this fundamentally believe that their abilities can develop over time. Because of this, they willingly take on challenges and they persist through difficulty. Look, if you believe your skills are fixed, you're going to stay in the comfort zone. But if you believe you can grow, you actively seek out that productive stretch zone.
Section 4. How to break free. Escaping the trap.
So the crucial point here is how we actually escape. We've got 3 really solid, evidence-based strategies to implement. Step 1, reframe failure as data. Failure isn't an endpoint, and it's definitely not a judgment of your worth. It is literally just information on what to adjust next time. Step 2, seek small, consistent stretches. You do not need to leap straight into the panic zone. Just take tiny steps outside your comfort zone every single day. And step 3, change your environment and peer group. Remember social conformity from earlier? Well, if you surround yourself with people who stretch themselves, you are naturally going to do the exact same thing.
Now, if you want to completely supercharge this process, you have to try rejection therapy. This is a concept of deliberate discomfort practice. You intentionally go out and seek rejection, like asking a stranger for some ridiculous favor that you know for a fact they'll say no to. By doing this, you measurably desensitize your fear response. You start to realize that hearing no doesn't actually destroy you, which drastically reduces your avoidance behavior over time. It's a real game changer.
Ultimately, though, making any of this stick requires a real internal shift. As the author James Clear points out, behavior flows from self-concept. This is the core philosophy of identity-based change. How you view yourself subconsciously dictates your long-term actions. You are always going to gravitate toward actions that align with who you believe you are.
Just think about the difference between these 2 statements. Saying, I will run 5 kilometers. That's an outcome goal. It is so easily abandoned the second you feel tired. But saying, I am a runner is an identity statement. It is vastly more durable. A runner runs, claiming the identity of someone who embraces discomfort, someone who pushes their boundaries, makes taking action a natural expression of who you are, rather than just some exhausting chore.
Which brings us to the end of our explainer. And really, right back to where we started. What are you going to do with your gap? That space between who you are and who you could be. Understanding the psychology of exactly why you stay stuck is the very first step to finally getting unstuck. You absolutely have the power to step out of your comfort zone. So my challenge to you is to make one small stretch today. And hey, if you enjoyed this explainer, make sure to subscribe. We explain the incredible human mind every single week. Thanks for learning with me.